Anxiously awaiting the arrival of the access bus is Ruth, the famous photographer, Ruth Osborne, and then the famous Kate Pittico, that's 103 years old, and then the famous Bonnie Cooper, also a videographer here in Leisure World. Three of the brightest ladies here in Leisure World anxiously awaiting the arrival of the access bus.
I'm Rhonda Winkler. I'm president of the Golden Rain Foundation, and we're here today to talk about the wonderful gift the foundation got from the Golden Age Foundation. I have with me our vice president, Carol Domacy. Mrs. Domacy is also a vice president of the Golden Age Foundation. Carol, do you want to share?
I'm Carol Domacy, and I'm the Special Projects Coordinator for the Golden Age Foundation, and we offered to pay up to $130,000 for a new handicap bus to replace the one we had purchased a dozen years ago. And we took it to the board wanted it, and then they took over from there. All we have to do is pay the bills.
It is part of our processes that you just can't give us something. The board itself has to vote on any donations. And so the Golden Age Foundation brought the proposal to us. We voted to, very happily to vote to accept this bus. And then we went back and forth, and finally, after we had accepted it, then our transportation department, headed by Grant Winford, began to do all the heavy duty work regarding all the specifications and everything that we could get in here that would really assist our population and getting from point A to point B. And Carol can go through the part that the Golden Age Foundation did.
Well, when he brought it back to us, we let Grant pick the bus he wanted. We said we'd give you $130,000 to buy a bus, and he already had some ideas. The bus we have now has a ramp that comes straight out and then lowers with wheelchairs on it. This one has an actual slope of a ramp, and I think it's about 2 or 3% ramp. So it's lower profile than the old bus. So he picked out the one he wanted. We said fine, and he ordered it. We gave him the deposit, and as soon as it took him months to finish it, because this started about 9 months ago. So they drove it out from Indiana a couple weeks ago. When it got here, we're still fighting over what city it got to, but I think it was Corona, to the company that paints the sign on the side of the bus. And they delivered it this morning, and so now Golden Rain has a new bus.
Yes, and we're really happy to accept this. Our other bus, I believe, was about 12 years
Yep,
old.
and we purchased that one too.
And we needed to have this upgraded. It's air conditioned, which I'm sure everybody will appreciate. And it's probably going to be a little bit easier to step into for those people that have hip and knee problems. But it's a very good thing that happened to us. And with very little adjustment, we may be able to get this out into the streets outside of Leisure World. And that may be one of the goals that we're going to try and achieve with this bus.
We constantly get questions about Trader Joe's in the movies and things like this. And since if you've had a bus for a lot of years and you haven't smogged it and you haven't registered it, if you decide when it's 10 years old you now want to use it on the city streets, it's extremely expensive. You have to go back to step one and fix everything that you changed. Whereas the handicap buses, both of them, have had very little work done to them. So this one would be street legal without a problem, and the other one wouldn't have any trouble registering it either. So if we can work it out so we can start going to Trader Joe's and maybe the movie theater, I think the shareholders would, especially the older ones that can't get out and drive to the theater. So I think this is a good deal.
We were so excited today. I mean, we had some of our oldest members of our population here, one which is somewhat getting famous now, our Kate Pettigrew, who is 103 years old. And it was so exciting to see her get on and off the bus. What a milestone that we've experienced today. And really, the real thank yous go to all the members of the Golden Age Foundation and to the shareholders and people that contribute to the Golden Age Foundation and make this kind of contribution possible.
Okay, I have a question for you, and the bus seems to be smaller than the old bus. Why am I thinking it's smaller, or what's the reason?
Well, they're built on two different chassis for one. The new bus is built on a truck chassis. And it's only 8 inches shorter than the other one, but it has the overhead where on a truck you might put a camper shell so that people can sleep up there. So this one doesn't have the rounded edges. So it looks shorter, but it's only 8 inches shorter. What it does have is it's a lower profile bus, and it has very heavy springs and stuff in it. Grant jokingly said today that him and the executive director will be in Forest Lawn before this bus stops running, that it's that sturdy a bus. So
Okay. Now, I have some video of one of you handing the keys to someone else. Who handed the keys at the driver's chair? Who was it?
she was in the driver's seat, and the bus was handed to her by the president of GAF, which is Maureen Habel.
Yes. Maureen gave me the keys, and I had to wander around to get them to Grant because obviously I can't drive that bus. But again, we are so pleased to be part of this and to have this donation.
Okay, and let's see if there's any questions from the audience. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, I have a question. What percentage of Leisure World residents benefit from having an access bus?
That's a good question.
It's a very good question. I wish I had an answer.
We really don't have an answer. One of the problems that sometimes we have in trying to do any kind of census of our population is it's against a lot of different laws about who's handicapped and who isn't. However, if you were to just sit outside our healthcare center for a couple hours, you'd start to understand just how many people will be helped by this bus.
And it can be used for people, maybe not in wheelchairs, but maybe walkers and things like that.
And
because
scooters.
the other buses are really hard to get on. The steps are very high. And if you have trouble with knees or walking and you have a walker, it's almost impossible to get on our other buses. So you have to be, this bus is much better for people that have knee problems. Our ex-vice president, Joyce, of the Golden Age, had no trouble getting on this bus, and she can't get on the old handicap bus. She tried it this morning. So I think a lot more people will take advantage of it.
It doesn't do a route.
It doesn't do a route. To my knowledge, my understanding from what I've heard is that it's a call basis, that people that need that type of a bus would call. Plus, it's used for Sunday church services because we don't run as many buses on Sunday as we used to run. So that's considered our kind of access bus. And if somebody calls up and they want to go to church, we pick them up on the routes to deliver them to one of the churches in Leisure World.
And these buses are available 24 hours a day?
No.
What are the
I think
hours?
it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I think the last one is 10 o'clock at night. We have some routes that go later. The night we have an amphitheater show, we put on extra buses and they run until a half hour or so after the amphitheater show.
And how much in advance of needing a ride should someone contact you?
They usually call the day before, but they can call the same day. And who they call, like on weekends for the church, is the security department. So the security department gets all these phone calls, and they're the ones that routes the drivers on the weekend because our people don't work on weekends.
Again, if our population has a doctor's appointment, if they can get it on the schedule. 24-hour notice is what we deal with best because the drivers come up with a route so they can maybe pick up more than one person. However, if you needed it and you needed it now, you make a phone call and we see what we can do to accommodate you.
Okay, and you mentioned during the weekend that they call the security department.
Yes.
Who do they call during the week?
They still call security during the week, okay.
Yeah.
So they call the security department and they let the drivers know. And we have 3 drivers that drive the access buses. There are 3 most senior drivers with the most experience. And they'll be the first 3 drivers driving this bus out next week because it should go maybe next weekend and it'll be out on the routes.